we go.
camera settings.
Oh, yeah. Well, we're live, buddy. Welcome.
Good morning.
Welcome back. Ooh, look at that yellow mug. Very fancy.
This is my my bitchin'
bitchin'.
mug.
Nice.
There you go.
I gotta get some of my helium or Paleo Treats mugs up, the spiritual shit ones, and the rest of them. Dude, so we got a ton of news going on. I was just looking at the last week in DePIN, and helium seems like it's leading in news, but everyone's got something. What have you got, dog?
Oh boy, I'm curious what's going on out there. It's been first of all, we've survived April Fool's Day, I think. I'm still seeing stuff get retweeted. It's like volcanoes on Mars and everything in between. So
yeah, I saw Dave Asprey had a thing where he's like, expose yourself to an allergen and then inject your piss into your muscles. And I'm like, I'm not sure if that's April Fool's or if that's just Dave Asprey being Dave Asprey.
Thanks. Yeah. Yeah, you never know with some of those things. Yeah, I guess on April 1st, the Tiago from Green Metrics hit me up. He's like, hey, check out this new case study we just launched. And it's frankly one of the cooler things that I've seen. It's just like layers of like, whoa, that's cool. Whoa, that's cool. And so, we've talked about Green Metrics, I think, on your show before. They're based out of Portugal. They've been doing a bunch of stuff with like flood detection and things like that. But they're also, using helium and putting these trackers on the Iberian lynx. And so it's an endangered species. There's something like 250 or 350 of them around.
Yep.
They've been working with this organization in Europe to like track and understand the movements of, these critters as they do their thing.
And that's up on the border with Portugal and not Andorra. It's like some,
I think Spain
yeah,
crosses in there. Yeah.
Hammered for my American geography. I remember
Andorra's over on the other side. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I think maybe I'm wrong. Who knows?
Okay, but they've been doing this for a while because I remember Miroslav was talking about this, a year and a half ago at the Solana Breakpoint in Lisbon.
Yep. Okay. And when I got to see this team at Smart Cities in Barcelona, they showed me this map that they've created where you can see all the links and the way they sort of move around on the map as they sort of, packs or cluster. I don't know what you call
not herds.
A group of cats.
Prides, right?
Yeah.
Lions?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's a mini pride. So like they already got all of this data out, and the scientists that they're working with are like, wow, this is amazing. And they didn't stop there. And where this gets really cool, particularly for me, thinking about like automation and extracting insights from this kind of data, is they took this map that they've created and they created all these geofences around all of the major roadways. And then they were able to fire off notifications over to Waze. So Waze is the, Google Maps, like, other thing. And it'll actually notify motorists.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it was, I don't know it's Google now. But it actually will fire off a notification to motorists and say like, drive carefully, there's animals near the road. So they're able to decrease the incidence of like vehicle hits on this endangered species by telling people just to drive a little more safely, because like the animals might be crossing the road.
Dang, we could use that in Southern California because we have a problem with mountain lions getting hit. So a decreasing mountain lion population, they're getting hemmed in by humans. So if they can do that for the small cats, I mean, good luck with telling Southern Californians how to drive, but
sure. Yeah, no, they drive faster for all we know. But
yeah,
I mean, there's always the human element, which is the big challenge in all of these things as we, live with every day. But just so cool, like how many layers there were to this case study that they put together from, working with these organizations to like creating these like tangible things out of it. So very, very cool.
Yeah. Shit. Yeah. Rad. Super cool. That's the Iberian lynx. That is bitchin'.
Yeah.
I got, I don't know if you can hear Marvel hammering this thing in the background, but he's causing a disturbance here in the studio.
I love it. I live by the sound of squeaky toys. So yeah, keep it going.
Fucking dog. Yeah. Our other dog this morning is 16, and I gave him a little toy, and he ran out in the backyard and he buried it so well that I didn't think it was buried. And Lee was like, "No, he's guarding it for sure. It's right by him." I'm like, "Oh, there's no way." It turned out that he'd buried it super well and was just guarding this stupid little toy. So
It's great. Love it.
Dogs and squeaky toys. Travis, why don't they use the animal crossings? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's great underpass crossings for the mountain lions here, but you ever so often not see them, but they get hit on the road. So
Yeah. Well, and it's like you need that data to understand even like do these prides, does only one pride use that crossing across the road and another uses another cross? Like you have to build two crossings. Like I don't know if people have that data, and so it's really cool. That the other I'm sorry, I'm going to keep going on about this.
Yeah.
But the just mind-blowing part of it for me is to put these trackers on these cats and to get this sort of data without a decentralized network or without a distributed network like Helium would have been a multi-$100,000 effort, right? Like you are talking about standing up infrastructure, you're talking about creating hardware for these things to wear, or it's cellular and you're gonna have to like trank these things and recharge the batteries. Like just the it's so cool. Like the idea.
So was this all off the shelf stuff, or did they do any kind of customization? Must have been a little bit of mix.
I'm pretty sure this was all off the shelf stuff. I don't know exactly what sensors they're using. It may as well be like the standard stuff you were using on your hang gliders or whatever.
Sure.
But yeah, just like and we're talking like a team of like 2 or 3 plus like the scientists involved, right? Like this wasn't like tons of people, and they're able to use existing coverage. I think they deployed a couple of gateways along the way, but they just get super high resolution information out of this. So it's very exciting.
Super, super cool. I mean, this is what Helium was designed for. It just took a little longer than we all probably wanted for it to actually start to come to fruition. And this is just the beginning. What's the SenseCore stuff?
Yeah, so SenseCore is another one. Another case study came through. So people share this stuff with us. And anyone who's working on something, I encourage you to come like reach out and tell us what you're working on. But so SenseCore is a organization in Canada and is started by a plumber. And so he's built this whole suite of sensors where you can go and strap it to a pipe and you do all this like analysis on the water usage in a building. And so they also published a case study this past week. I think we're going to have some stuff on the Helium channels coming out today that'll sort of bump that up a little bit.
Cool.
But they saved like many thousands of dollars for this hotel where they went and plugged in these sensors between a sump pump like firing off water where it shouldn't be to some leaks that were persistent in this, in the building. And it's this like couple $100 to like plug in this sensor and, use their service. And they, the output there was like many times over that. So
yeah, I remember talking to that guy. Yeah. I don't know if I helped him or not, but I remember we talked and he'll be like, dude, we talked about this forever and we did this and that. But I remember talking, I was like, this is super cool to see that. So
yeah,
rad, another rad little Helium success story kind of in the real world. And then we've got the vote, right?
Well, and I see ill peripherals over here in the chat. We should get him up here.
He ran on a very strong platform of, what was it, free peanut butter sandwiches and lunch? Mm-hmm. Something like that.
I think I saw his like vote description was like, I like this stuff and I like you guys or something like that. So got him the win.
Yeah. Well done, Trav. So we'll see what's going on there yet. I guess Travis hit me up in Discord if you want to come on and talk about it. And he's got also his own YouTube channel that he launched now. That's I put the link in the description at the end of this thing. But those guys do like a weekly show that is a version of some stuff he's doing for Helium a long time ago. But just like, this is what I'm doing. This is what's going on. Here's a bunch of cool technology, and those guys are such nerds that it's like every time I jump in there, there's one or two things I'm like, I should devote my life to this. And it's like I go to bed, wake up, thank God I forgot about like a goldfish because there's something else to do.
Oh, speaking of Travis and like funny hacks, this other thing that I did last week, well, I didn't do. Somebody wrote this project where you could basically thrash a GPIO on a microcontroller and have it emulate a LoRa radio. And so
Yeah.
you could send a full-on like LoRaWAN packet off of a commodity like $1 chip, basically.
Right.
Um,
And it was basically, it was like using a bulldozer to move a baseball or something, like was how I thought of it,
That's a
except the
great
bulldozer was
analogy.
free.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you're pumping a ton of RF at
Mhm.
low frequency to get this like harmonic up at the like 900 megahertz range. And he basically did this through like guess and check. Like the way the guy built it was just delightful, because it's just the way we go and sort of hack around something. But chair's moving ahead of me.
Okay.
The yeah, like basically he found like if I vibrate this pin
Mhm.
at one level, I can see on my oscilloscope this other thing happen. Well, he's actually using an SDR, right?
Yep.
Software defined radio, to
Yep.
listen to all this stuff. And he had some really great notes around like, use this SDR, don't use this SDR, because
Yeah.
it's like got bigger bandwidth and you can see more going on. Like, he has some really great
Oh,
tips in
there's
this
so
video.
much to know. Every time I see those things, I'm like, I got to buy that tool just so I can see this thing that I'll never look for, but just in case.
Just in case. Yeah.
Yeah.
You could always listen to the radio with it, right? So
Yeah. Let's see,
yeah.
Jim, does it
Listen
make
to
sense to
every
put
channel all at once.
Yeah, all of them, all the time. I guess, Jim, it depends on what you're trying to achieve. So I think, and the name is Solar Jim earlier, so assuming you're in the solar business. Yeah, I guess it depends what you're trying to achieve. Are you trying to monitor these things, or what are you trying to do? But
some of the stuff, like, I'd be curious to talk with like a solar person about this, but
okay.
the performance of a solar panel is based on largely how clean it is a lot of the time. And that correlation to light intensity. I've been curious if like putting a light intensity sensor alongside a PV setup would give you a sense of like, is my panel dirty? Is my panel clean? Like, is there some way to start like extrapolating that kind of stuff, and then notify the owner and be like, hey, get up there with a scrub brush, because your time has come.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Or, well, we can talk about some robot stuff later on, but I think we're going to start to see like these integrations of all these different things, which is cool, because it's what we're starting to see now. But okay. Yeah, Jim, drop what you're thinking in the chat, and we'll see if we can help you. And if we can't, I'm sure someone watching this can. I did want to shout out Jose's April 1st helium flicks, which was awesome. He had done such a good job on this thing it was like Netflix for helium, but yeah, it was big April Fools.
Yep. Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, that was a crusher.
Boy, I loved his execution of it, because he made a whole web page for it, and then he wrote a HIP to say like, this should be a subnetwork on helium, and then he sort of wrote the whole thing, and then on April 2nd he pulled it all down with this like, oh, sorry, the team is dissolved, like we can't build this. Like, it was just execution all the way through. I loved it.
Yeah. I mean, that is probably the thing as I go through what I'm looking at now with DePIN, and I guess, personally as well, is that's the thing that keeps me in this space, is just like the joyful and competent execution of tasks. And what the task is doesn't matter as much. It's just being around people who want to do a thing well, who are willing to put in the work to do it well. And then, of course, there's the part where you've got to make money and you've got to run a business. But every so often, it's fun to just be like, hey, I'm just doing this because it's fun to do and I can do a good job. And that's rad. That keeps me psyched.
I mean, that echoes throughout the entire foundation team too. It's just like everyone is incredibly self-directed, and they're like, hey, this is the stuff I want to work on. It's like, great, let's go. So
yeah. Let's see. Some stuff we talked about doing this every time. I just want to make sure we hit it, is that be careful of scams out there as we get deeper into crypto and the bull run. There's going to be more and more of them. The stuff I've seen recently that I think is pretty dangerous is the stuff on Twitter, where you'll see a project announce like, hey, we just did this airdrop, or like whatever it was they're announcing. And then a clone or fake account will announce the same thing. They'll pull the same media, same everything. It'll look super similar. But of course it'll go to something where they're like, oh yeah, we're doing a quick bridge over here. Make sure you put your 12 words in so that you qualify for the, 2,400 thing. And then you'll see bullshit comments from fake users that are like, I just made whatever, $2,400 doing this. Like, this is so cool. And it will look pretty goddamn real. So I think the only fix there is make sure you don't click on Twitter links. or just do some research to make sure you're clicking on the correct link, and really only start from the project page when you know it's absolutely the right page, and be really careful. I'm not sure what the long-term fix is there other than be vigilant. So
I'll add one other thing that we've been seeing a lot of, especially in this sort of meme coin environment, is there are, folks are aping Cash or Soul or whatever into these meme coins.
Yep.
And there's some really nice tooling out there to sort of get a sense for like how that coin is structured.
Yep.
So I got airdropped some random coin the other day, and I went and checked it out on this website, 𝐒𝐩𝐬𝐨𝐬𝐡𝐢𝐩. And it's just immediately like all red. And it's like a totally unbounded supply. There was like, the owner of the coin could just go and mint themselves like 10,000 tokens if they wanted to, like, all of that kind of stuff. So that's another helpful site, 𝐒𝐻𝐬𝐬𝐡𝐢𝐩. You can drop the token address in there and it'll give you a little rundown on it.
I don't know what that Pedals dev was from, but I don't know how to use this thing well enough to just not, let's see, 𝐒𝐻𝐬𝐬𝐿. God damn it. It's fucking capitalizing things for me. X. And I'll see if I can replace that. Like that. Cool.
That's the one. Yeah.
Yeah. Check that stuff out. So just be ultra careful. I think is the takeaway there, is that there's probably not one tool that solves everything, because as soon as there is, the scammers will figure out how to corrupt that.
Yep.
And distort that. So just be super vigilant. At the end of the day, it's pretty difficult to fuck things up if you start from the original site. But I get that sometimes you'll make a mistake and you'll go to whatever heliumbest.com or like heliumofficial.com instead of helium.com or whatever the project is. So just be vigilant. And I think the other piece is make sure you're part of a Discord server where you can check these things. And so I think there's a piece there where this is just my kind of the way I do it, is I've got the Gristleking server. I trust the folks in there. I've got longstanding relationships with a lot of them. And before I do something batshit crazy, I'll check with either a couple of them in a public channel, or there'll be like a private channel or a DM where it's like, hey, I'm doing this. Is anyone else doing the same thing? And sometimes you'll have folks saying like, whoa, stop there. Like you're hitting the wrong site. So just putting things out in public on Discord and saying like, this is what I'm doing, which it's tempting not to do because you think you're the only one, and you think if you get in first and early, you're going to get way more. But just
you're going to have somebody like me shut you down because I plugged it into 𝐒𝐻𝐬𝐬𝐬 or whatever.
Yeah. Just understand the risks of moving silently and on your own.
Yep.
So high risk. Let's see. Okay, I've got. Let's do DePIN stuff first. I was going to do the Frodo bots, but I'm going to save those guys to the end because they're not a DePIN yet. All right. Let's see. 𝐻𝐸𝐻𝐻. I picked up their relay in Denver. I was on their DevNet for a while, which was super shaky as we kind of sorted out all the bugs. That was really fun going back and forth. And I worked with one of their guys who's like, oh, it's cool to, like, I don't know if we talked about this last time. He's like, it's cool to work with another nerd. I'm like, dude, I have no idea what I'm doing. All I know is how to SSH into something and copy paste. But it was cool to hear like someone who is actually good at this think that I was okay at it. So that was kind of cool. And we did a bunch of like bug smashing together. Or not a bunch, but a little bit. And then they launched their mainnet recently. All the relays are starting to come on. You can spin up your own on a virtual one if you have the original hardware, or if you have the hardware, you can do that. So super cool to see how fast those guys are moving. And what they're doing. They're building this privacy layer. So,
and is that like a Tor network that people can jump in and plug into? Like it works? Mm-hmm. That's cool.
Yeah. They're doing. I mean, they start talking about technical stuff on the calls, and they are a client of ours, so hopefully that's apparent, but maybe not. Full disclosure, client of Goldhawks. On those technical calls, I'm like, dude, what are you guys talking about? You're going to have to say this like 6 times for me to understand exactly how this is working, but super, super cool and impressive the folks are bringing in. And I think that the general idea is that it's this privacy layer that anyone can use, and the stuff that I'm hearing is like, oh man, this is gonna change the way people stay private and how easy it's gonna be. So
that's
super
sweet.
Cool stuff there. Hivemapper announced their driver reputation program. Did you see this, Joey?
No.
Okay. Let's see if I read it. I think the long and short was that in all of these things, the long and short of this stuff is that every single DePIN project is improving what they're doing in order to get higher and higher quality data or provide a higher and higher quality service out of whatever it is they're doing. And so in the long term, if you want to optimize for any DePIN project, is think about what that project wants to accomplish and then build towards that. I'd be pretty careful building towards anything else, short-term, long-term. I think a good example might be Helium, where you're like, oh, am I going to do CBRS or Wi-Fi, or where am I going to put this thing, or et cetera. It's like, just think about where you can put the thing to provide the best coverage for the most people. And it's not a guarantee, but you probably won't go wrong with that. So let's see. Oh my God, HiveMapper has this huge long thing. Tougher requirements for driver reputation take effect tomorrow. This means that contributors with great dash cam mounts get enhanced honey rewards, and the contributors with the worst mounts receive none. So could be that folks, I think 619 who's on here OTA has like an external dash cam mount. I might have two of them. And so he'll earn more rewards than me, where I've got an internal mount. We don't drive that much, which doesn't affect this, but I got to admit, I don't always check to see if that mount is good. And I mounted it slightly wrong, so it's behind the rear view mirror. And I'll get blasted for this. But I never change my rear view mirror once it's in. All I'll do is just flip it so that I'm in like night mode or whatever, and that's it. My wife, and I think, I'll just leave it at that. My fucking beautiful, radical, awesome wife will change that goddamn thing every time she gets in the car. And so every time she changes it, it hits the dash cam slightly. Most of the time it probably doesn't affect it, but sometimes it does. Yeah. So I think for me, I'll probably get penalized for that, which not a big deal. Like I just think these things are fun to be a part of, but something to be aware of.
I've definitely been hearing from that team that like they really value those outside mounts, and I was running one like that for a while, and then well, now I'm not, because it's gone. But
did you get it that got stolen with when you carted?
Yeah, with like there's no supply out there. You cannot get one. I mean, it's I guess you can go on eBay and try and track one down or whatever. But yeah.
But Ariel, the CEO over there, is strongly advised against that.
Yeah, he's got a sword, so
So I was like, wow, I didn't know we were getting violent. It's going to be awesome. I love this stuff. So cool stuff. And then for all of the stuff we're going to talk about, kind of that HiveMapper thing in the next piece, like everything outside Helium, because this show started specifically for Helium, and then it's branched out a little bit into other DePINs, is most of this stuff you can see in the Gristleking server. I've set up a channel that is now public for it's called DPU under 5, which is DePIN under 5 minutes. And almost all of the news that comes out of every other server feeds into that channel. So you can go check that channel and see the HiveMapper news, the Wi-Fi DABA news, the 𝐒𝐻𝐸 news, the Helium news, like all that stuff, and catch it rather than going through every server. I think it's pretty useful, but you can also check every server if you want. It's not like it's proprietary information. And you could set up your own Discord server and do the same thing if you want to keep it to yourself. So
that's handy.
Yeah.
It's got to be a water hose of stuff. But
it is, and they limit you to 15 or 20 Discords, so not everyone is in there. And I had to cut a couple folks out that are just smaller or don't announce that much. But I think the main ones are in there.
Speaking of news in the DePIN space, IoTeX just pulled in like $50 million.
I think I see that like announcement go out every couple months, because they had the same kind of announcement in January with like, oh, we did 50 million. I was like, dang, another 50 million. It's like, no, I think it's the same one. I think they're just working super hard to say, hey, we're doing this thing. We're going for it.
Good.
So
okay.
I could be wrong. It could be a brand new one and it's another 50 million, but that would mean like, I'll go check with those guys. I'll ask Roland what's up with that.
Sure.
Let's see. HiveMapper, Wi-Fi DABA. Those guys are doing a town hall. I get asked about those guys all the time. Those guys are also Goldhawks clients. They've been heads down in a sprint. And I think we've talked about this, but like there's this culture in, I guess, tech where when you're doing a sprint, you don't talk to anyone else and you are like totally heads down, which I find really difficult to kind of understand, because I'm always like talking to everybody and sharing as much as I can and keeping it out there. It's the opposite thing, but the idea obviously is to focus and move super fast. So they're coming out of that, doing a town hall Monday at 8:30 a.m. Pacific. So whatever that turns into for you, go check out what they're doing. So super cool stuff. I know we helped them a bunch on their tokenomics in the initial launch. We'll probably jump back in with them pretty soon and reintegrate. let's see, I got our scalar inventory program next, but that is not quite a DePIN, so I'll drop that down at the bottom. I got to get you to fly down here, Joey. I got to find a ticket for you. Let's see, token 2049 is coming up. Are you going to that, Joey? I don't think we are.
I'm not. This is the Dubai one or
The Dubai
Hong
one,
Kong
yeah.
or yeah. No, we're not doing that one.
Yeah, no, Max and I have talked about not going to all of these, and it seems like every time about a week and a half out, we're like, meh, fuck it, let's go. So right now we're not going. I think we're in that like close to week and a half zone, so we may announce soon. They're like, oh, as it turns out, see you in Dubai.
Yeah, that'd be a fun trip. We've got Abaya's out in Hong Kong right now for the
that's right.
the event there. But
for Web3 week, I think it is.
Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, so he's got a talk, he's got a panel, and then everything in between. So
cool. We need like a DePIN plane that just these projects contribute to, and it's like we have our own. I don't know what they're called now, but we have our own Learjet that just like goes around, picks up all the DePIN people, flies to where it is, drops them off, comes back, drops everybody off just like a school bus.
I have a feeling like you know a guy for this, and we can set that DAO up real quick.
Yeah, I'm assuming it costs a significant amount, but it'd be cool to kind of see that stuff happen. Unlikely though. Let's see. So Hong Kong Web3 week, we talked about that. Abaya's going to be there. I know the Demo folks are going to be there. I think Daniel at Hotspot is going to be out there. I think the A-Tour folks are going to be there. So it's just like all these folks are going to be at all these different events, spreading the good word. And I think what we'll see a lot of this second quarter is just a ton more access to DePIN for normal people. So like if you're, I got hit up the other day by this guy. He's like, hey, I do this thing called DePIN testing, and I'll beta test any DePIN project and write a blog post about it. And I was like, oh, that sounds original.
Yeah, where have I seen that?
So if you want to send me, he's like, if you want to send me free stuff, you can. I was like, oh, well, thank you. Jesus Christ. But I think that actually I got to be less of an asshole about that. And we need more of those people. You know, the more that we spread the news, the better it's going to be for everybody. Okay, so I've got some non or less DePIN related stuff. The last couple things of my thing is the Rabbit R1 is supposed to be shipping at the end of the month. That's the little AI agent in an orange box that went batshit crazy at CES. They're doing a pickup thing in New York. I was like, this is bullshit. I got in early, but it doesn't matter what batch you are. If you got into the New York event, I think there's 250 of them. You can pick them up there. So we'll start to see news on them come out, I think, later this month. And then it'll be super cool to see what those guys come up with. And they go on to, I think I'll do this at the bottom of the show, but like my wish list stuff that I just wish I had time to do. Is I'm hoping the Rabbit can help out with that, or it's just like you pointed at something like, hey, figure out how to do this.
That's the dream. Yeah. That's. I mean, it's a really interesting space because we've seen so many of these like non-screen wearable type things, that are just like AI interfaces. It'd be interesting to see how that evolves.
Yep. So I mean, I'm excited to see what happens with that. I think the thing there is like keep the stoke high and the expectations low, and you'll continue to keep the stoke high. If the expectation is that it'll change your life and move your house 6 inches to the left and give you that view that you always wanted, very, very unlikely to beat that one.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, Travis, which event? So it's all this stuff is in the Rabbit R1 channel, but so what they did was they launched at CES, and they had this little orange box with a screen on it that's supposed to be an AI in a box. People went batshit crazy about it. They expected to sell a couple hundred. They sold something like 10,000 in the first 2 days. And then they closed that batch and they opened up another batch of another 10,000, another 5,000. I think at this point they've pre-sold 60 or 70,000 units in 6 or 7 batches. And what they decided to do was say, hey, it doesn't matter what batch you bought in. If you can come to this New York City event and we'll only have 250 attendees, you can pick up your Rabbit there. So they're just doing some like marketing press stuff. It's pretty cool. It's not a DePIN specific thing.
Yeah.
And then
those,
go ahead.
And they were designed by Teenage Engineering, I think, was a whole like angle on that thing too.
So. Those guys, the Rabbit folks, crushed the marketing, whether on purpose or accidentally. They did easily the best marketing job I've seen done in the last year.
Yeah.
So let's see. The other thing is the Frodobots. I've got mine right here. Let me see if I can grab it out. So this is something
I've been waiting for this.
Yeah. So here's the little.
Look at that little.
I was going to open this thing up. So there's a little camera on top. There's a speaker and a microphone up here. I think I might have put it in the opposite direction. You can open up the back pretty easily and see all the different pieces. I think I put a list of all the different chips and boards and whatever else that I could find into the Gristleking server. But the idea is that it's a little robot. You can control it from a, what are they saying? Not an app interface, from a URL. You go to whatever. Right now you can't do this, but in the next 2 months, like I could send you a link, Joey. It'd be whatever, like nick.frodobots or gristleking.frodobots.com or whatever the link is. You'd log in, you'd pick which of my Frodobots you want to drive, and you could just drive it from wherever you are in an undisclosed location, anywhere else that the Frodobot is. So my Frodobot can be down in San Diego. You could drive it. You can interact with people. You can talk to them. You can listen to them. You can see what's going on. You got front and back cameras. And it's just a little bit like, so that's general idea starts to open up a ton of other ideas. I'm trying to get the Frodobots guys to do a DePIN. I think they're going to do it. And I don't know how much they have disclosed or not disclosed. So I'll just say I think they're going to do it. Obviously I want them to hire Golden Hawks to help out and crush. But either way, it'll be super cool to see that. We've been playing with the Frodobots over at Paleo Treats to do little mini deliveries. The thing only goes 2.3 kilometers per hour, kind of max, and more like 2 kilometers an hour. So it's pretty darn slow. I think to get it down to the other end of like our main street strip here in San Diego is something like 700 meters, and that'll take it like 20 minutes to get there, 730 meters. So it's like you and I could walk it in 7 minutes. It's going to take this thing 20 minutes. So it's not super practical for like fast deliveries, but also super fun to do. And just using these things, I feel like I'm part of the future. So I'll stop there. I got more to say, but I know you've been watching a little bit, so I want to know if you have any questions on this stuff.
Well, I mean, first of all, we got to figure out how to make that thing faster. But then I'm curious what like the angle is for a DePIN. Is like the idea that anyone can go buy one of these things, put it on their sidewalk, and let somebody like.
I think there's two pieces. Actually, there's probably multiple pieces, and the execution on this will be hard. So a lot of this stuff is pretty hand wavy, as far as like it doesn't exist yet. The first part is the practical application of having a remote controlled robot where you could deliver stuff, right? So there's like a delivery piece, which I think is impractical right now with the speed as it is. The Frodobots tech support has told me that I won't ever be able to go more, or I wanted to go 6 kilometers an hour. They're like, that'll never happen. I'm going. So Saturday, I signed up for every San Diego robotics club I could find. And on Saturday, I'm going to the San Diego Robotics Club meeting for racing wheeled robots. And I'm just going to bring this thing and say like, hey, how do I make this thing go faster, right? If the Frodobots team isn't going to do it, that's fine. I'll take the thing apart and figure out how to do it on my own. And I'll let them know what I'm doing because I think the speed thing is pretty interesting. So there's a part where a store owner like us at Paleo Treats could do deliveries. There's also a part where we could clear out our little parking lot area in the back. And again, this is super hand wavy. So I'd ask all the other tenants like, hey, I think we have 10 spaces back there. We'd block it off. We'd put a couple little barriers up and make a maze. And then we could charge people to run the maze as fast as they wanted, maybe put up prizes. So whoever runs the fastest gets Paleo Treats XYZ. So that kind of stuff for a business can be like a super cool marketing angle. Hang on one second. I got a fucking mini disaster to manage.
I'm going to jump in here because there's so this is all reminding me of this company Starship. And I think there's other companies like them. But when I was in Estonia a couple of years ago, they were based out of Tallinn. And it's delivery robots. And you can hit their website. It's starship.xyz, and they're these cute little things, and they just go down the sidewalk, and they're somewhat autonomous, but they're also piloted as sort of a backup. And I could imagine a sort of DePIN of drivers sort of turning into this like bounty system of somebody able just to like jump in, pilot a robot for a little bit, get it over an obstacle, and then pop back out and they get some token or something like that.
Yep.
So it's interesting thinking about the Protobot as like a launch pad for building that infrastructure, kind of the same way that like HiveMapper's built this whole like AI training platform now.
Yeah, totally. So I think there's that aspect where you've got this like, I don't know, swarm or fleet or whatever of Protobots that anyone can log into, and maybe they solve problems, right? Like the other things on its side. How do you fix it? And you just need someone to log into that Protobot and wait for someone to walk by and say like, hey, can you just pick me up? And then, tilt it back straight and you're good. The other thing that they're doing that I think is interesting is they're using all the data they collect to figure out how people interact with the world through a robot. And then I think feeding that into AI stuff to come up with like, okay, this is how we see these interactions happening. Here's how we can make things a little bit more autonomous. And so now I'm totally guessing here, but using that same example, when the robot flips over and they see like, oh, my visual access has changed and I can't move. Now it waits to see it in the camera. And when that person comes by, it says, hey, I'm a little robot. I'm a little robot, short and stout. Can you tilt me up? And so it starts to say like, this is how humans interact with each other. There are some things that still only humans can do, but there's plenty of things that it would be inefficient to kind of go around and be like, hey, Joey, can you jump on and log in real quick so that you can wait for someone to come along and say, hey, can you pick me up? So I think that kind of stuff comes in. There could be some pieces, and we've been joking a little bit about it on Twitter, where I put a HiveMapper dash cam on this thing and drive around. And then you can start to say, hey, I don't have to wait on a specific person, or it opens it up wider to say, all right, I've got not only dash cams in the car, but I've got this low level dash cam that if I want to go check a specific address and look at a specific door or whatever it is that some realtor wants to look at, I want to see what plants they're growing, or not plants, but whatever the fuck is going on at a low level. Cool. They can see that. So
yeah. I mean, there's a lot of valuable insights that are out of reach for HiveMapper right now because they're entirely vehicle based. But you can imagine driving this thing through a shopping mall, and there's all sorts of analysts and stuff that are going to want metrics out of like what's the foot traffic density and all that fun stuff. So, yeah.
So I think that stuff makes a difference. And then there's other stuff that comes up where a lot of these DePINs, the data and the service that they provide in some cases, and in some it's more true than in others, is less valuable than the access that a DePIN gives you to all the users. So with Demo, for example, that every user out there has a car. And so that they might want their tires changed. And Demo has been super good about saying like, hey, we're trying to integrate with outside vendors so that when you want your tires changed or your oil changed or whatever it is, not only do we tell you, but we also say, hey, go to this vendor. Right. Because they understand what a Demo is. You don't have to drive in and be like, okay, I got this thing. It makes me tokens. It's really good. Like, you don't have to explain any of that. They're just like, oh, cool. You've got a Demo on your car. Great. Come here. I know, like, let me just log into your Demo account that you have already granted me access to, and I can see exactly what's going on without having to plug in my own thing and charge you $250 for that. So I think we're going to see these efficiencies come up, but that becomes way more valuable than just the data that Demo is sending. And so it's not true with every DePIN project. Max and I are kicking this idea back and forth. He thinks that it's not a great idea for most projects, but it is for Demo. I think it's a great idea for all of them. So there's some good creative tension going on right there. But I think that kind of stuff where in the Protobot's case, you could say that just the data that it collects from kind of passively driving around is very different than saying, okay, I've got someone who I know spent $200 on a robot. They probably want this other thing as well. So
$200 isn't bad for driving around a little fun RC car too.
Dude,
so
yeah, it was $200 a piece, and then $240 or something for shipping. I think I spent $650 on both of them, and they arrived within 2 weeks.
Yeah,
so
they look fun.
Yeah, they're super fun, and I think the other piece is, look, there are like there are financial risks with driving that thing around. Is that once it gets 2 or 3 blocks away, I think 609 has talked about this. Someone can just walk up, pick it up, and walk off with it. And there's not much you can do. You'd have to put your computer down, run out, where it was, go track them down and find it. But pretty easy, especially if these things get prevalent and someone has an actual plan, is they'd drive up, throw a fucking sheet over it so you can't see the camera, turn it off, throw it in their car, it's gone. You're not going to get that thing.
Sure. Yeah. Or just let alone people kicking it over and
Yeah.
generally being a menace. So yeah,
Yep.
that's rough.
And then Travis, $200 was there's a discount code in Discord. I think you go into their thing and you say, I want a Frotobot ! Or something in their Buy Frotobots channel, and they'll give you a discount to get it down to 200. So yeah, that's there. I think the other thing that has been surprising to me on that, Joey, is that I expected this thing to get stolen on day one. I was just like, hey, this is an experiment. If I lose this thing, I'm kind of expecting to. It was fun at least to see it work. And I don't think yet we've had a negative interaction. And almost all of the interactions are super positive. It's funny because now people are conditioned to, whip out their phone every time they see something strange. And so I'll be driving this little thing looking at the screen and you see people constantly whipping out their phone and just like, look at this thing, check this thing out. And so for us at Paleo Treats, it was kind of really quickly apparent that, man, you better get your branding shit together on these things. And so we put, Paleo Treats on the Frotobot. So now when we drive it around, it's like, oh, you can go find that thing, you can tag it, et cetera, et cetera. So I think there's also like side business cases. One thing we're going to do probably next week is do a delivery down to a coffee shop, the same coffee shop we talked about earlier. So it's 700 meters away, about 20 minutes away.
Mm-hmm.
And it may take a little bit longer to do this, but we do a deal with them where we do some of their branding on the Frotobot, some of our branding. We deliver Paleo Treats and some other stuff we sell for coffee. So we sell a stuff called Bubs Collagen and Bubs MCT oil powder. And so this is like a traditional coffee shop. We'd send this stuff down and say, look, you can put this in the next 10 coffees and Bubs will cover those coffees so that someone comes in and they're like, hey, do you want to try new coffee? This robot bought it for you. And they look at the robot and it's like, oh, it's got the Bubs branding. It's got the 𝐒𝐻𝐸𝐻 coffee shop branding. It's got the Paleo Treats branding. It's got, some free stuff. And it's just like super fun marketing awareness. So
you could do some really fun, just like tip jar, like throw a couple of, treats on a thing and say like, leave $2 and
pay what you want kind of thing.
It could be like just a fun little experiment too.
Yeah.
I like Derek's note. You got to throw a LoRaWAN tracker on there. And then
so totally. Yeah.
You got it full circle.
Yep. And I think that's the other piece. When maybe we talked about this on Twitter somewhere else, but it's just like, okay, what does a Frotobot need? And I think I'm putting words in their mouth now. They haven't said this at all, but I think their approach to this is, hey, we are going to keep this dollar cost as low as possible. And we're going to allow people to optimize however they want. And in fact, when I put that forward, they're like, what do you mean by optimize? I'm like, oh, well, we're going to have to talk more about how DePIN people work because trust me, if this thing becomes a DePIN and you get points for hitting different things, I guarantee you someone who's like a world-class robot expert will come in, get into the firmware, be like, all right, now I can make the wheels go so that this thing goes 10 kilometers an hour, 20, because speed is going to be the advantage.
Right. Strap it to an industrial drone or whatever.
Yeah. Let's see. Travis, can you rewrite the control firmware to accommodate mecanum wheel orientations? You could. Me and maybe the rabbit will be able to do that. But yeah, there's you can get in the guts of this thing. And I bought 2 of them, Trav. I think I'm looking for someone if they want to do it where I'll just send them that bot and they get in the guts of it. And they're like, yeah, this is how I do it. And I may work with Frotobots to say like, how much you guys going to open source and how much not? Because this is going to happen. It's probably better off if I do it. So at least you have some beneficial assistance. But yeah, like people are gonna run up in this thing. I like the QR code coupon. That's cool. Oh, so I guess where I was going, Joey, with the optimization is that there's going to be little packs that people put on these things. It'll be a LoRaWAN tracker. It'll be some kind of like weather temperature tracker. So it's like, oh, this is how the temperature changes at the 3-foot level as it goes through the city, whether it's shade or sun or breeze or not breeze or all that stuff. I'm sure there'll be some kind of air pollution tracker. So it's like I start to see all of these things come together. And then, Jesus, I forgot this. This Frotobots is running on a Helium sim. So because Helium has an unlimited plan for $20 a month, no other provider has that. And this thing uses about 1 gig an hour. And so if you figure whatever multiplication you want to use, 8 hours a day, 20 days in a month, that is more than any other plan out there. And it may not be that Helium will work perfectly for that. I'm sure at some point it slows down or throttles or whatever it is, but it makes it so that It's just easy to use this thing on a DePIN, and you can start saying, okay, I'm going to stack Frodobots, which I'll try and make a DePIN with helium, which is with, with a tracker and or the sim, with WeatherXM, with whatever, all of those things. It starts to come together and say, cool, let's do something cool.
Yeah, they got to throw. They're probably not using the dynamic coverage, would be a little bit of a bummer. So it's a straight TMO on that sim, but still cool to use it.
Wait, say it again.
So the Helium mobile plan needs some certs in order to do the Wi-Fi offload, and I have to imagine the Protobot is not doing that, but still cool to use those sims. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. So it can't run off of the Wi-Fi stuff. Or we're thinking it can't run off the Wi-Fi stuff. Okay. And I know, I think I was talking to Elon Tusk, and he's like, well, that thing's not going to be because I was like, oh, it'll make, the mobile points as it drives around. He's like, no, it's got to be signed into the app. And because I end up signing into my app, and that app is not on the Frodobots, it's on my phone, it's not the same thing. So
strap your phone to it, and then you're,
yeah. Increase the value for someone to snatch that thing. So yeah. I think the ludicrous mode on a Protobot would be fucking rad. I think that the closest we can get is I throw the video into Adobe Premiere Pro and just speed it up to 20x, and he's like, that's what it would be like. You've seen like smoke coming out behind.
Yeah.
It. So
that's cool. And those Mecanum wheels, I don't know how you say that, but those would make that look real futuristic and wild. Those are those ones that can move any direction.
So I think some of this stuff is super, super cool. And it's like, this is, I think, what a DePIN is supposed to do is explore new spaces and distribute it out of that CapEx. So that I know the Frodobots guys have said, hey, we want to build these things as close to cost as possible to get a bunch out there. And then they get a bunch out. Some of them are going to go to people who don't care. They just want to like drive a thing around their neighborhood. That's cool. Some of them are going to go out to people like me who can imagine these things. Some of them go out to folks like you and Travis where you're like, I not only will imagine this, I will rewrite this thing and add these fucking mega wheels and crush with it. So super cool.
That's cool. I love the idea of just like a bare bones platform. It's one of the things that keeps me excited about Lorwyn. It's just like, here's this platform to do kind of whatever you want on.
I like the QR code idea too. Yeah, it is. It's like a neat thing, and it seems to be a long-term play that has way more value than coming out with a perfectly polished thing.
Yeah.
But we'll see, because WeatherXM is going to be coming out with a pretty well-polished thing soon. They've been working on it for a couple of years. I mean, this is what they've been saying. This is they're launching their mainnet pretty soon. So we'll see how that goes down, and they've had enough time to make that thing pretty good. I'm still expecting with that, as with any big complex project trying to do something that's never been done before, we'll see at least one like major bug and 20 or 30 small things that are like, oh, that's kind of a pain in the ass, but they'll fix it pretty quick.
It's not too late to move to Solana, but
I think it is.
I think it is.
Yeah, I talked to them about that. They're doing the Arbitrum thing. I think their thing is they want to get it out on mainnet and get this thing done, because that Discord is, I think we've managed to get it much better than it was, but it's still got a lot of people in there who are like, I just want my money. I don't give a single fuck about weather. Fuck you guys. You've stolen my money. And it's super hard to deal with those folks. It's like, hey, I don't know what to tell you.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, those are the folks I feel like you just want to shake out anyway. Cause like, is that thing deployed right? Is it in your closet? Like what's going on? Right.
Yeah. And I think I can see both sides of it, right? On one side, you've got someone who had $400 to spend when they bought it. Maybe they don't have 400 now, or 400 would make a really big difference in their life. And so they want that money back. They're really frustrated that it's taken so long, and they see that the bull run is coming, and they're like, dude, I want to be there for that. And I want this investment. I want this spend I made 2 years ago to actually pay off. I totally get that part. But the flip side is like, look, with these DePINs, it's having that attitude is a lot like going to Vegas and be like, okay, going to Vegas to pay my rent for next month. Like I guarantee I'll come back with my rent money. I think the odds are actually much better with DePINs that you will come back with your rent money, but it's still, the odds are not great.
Yeah. And it's easy. I guess it's hard. It's hard from an engineering team to express all of the things that happen in a day that need to get built or need to be fixed or like all that other kind of stuff. And so it's easy to sit on the sidelines and be like, why aren't you guys building this thing? This feels really important to me. And it's like, well, there's a dozen other things that we prioritized on top of that. And,
Yeah.
you know, it obviously we don't think it's any less important, but like this other stuff turns out was actually more important. So,
And I think the other thing, Joey, too, that you might have a unique perspective on is this idea that the team typically knows what needs to happen right now. And if they just focus on that, then it opens up the platform for way more later versus just doing what the community wants right now.
oh
So I think
yeah,
that,
well, yeah, I think the big part of it is we, you know, there's a lot of thinking that goes into like where's this going,
mhm.
and what are the things that we need to build to get there. And so, we'll cast some like pie in the sky idea of like, how does proof of coverage evolve or something like that. And
Yep.
it's like, all right, what pieces can we start putting together today that get us there? Or what are the things that are going to drive, network usage, things like that. And that tends to override things that are inconveniences or smaller, nice to have kind of things.
Yep.
Until
Yep. I
those
agree.
inconveniences start burning the house down or whatever. And then it's
Yeah.
like, all right, yeah. But yeah, that's the balance of all of this.
It's a classic like strategy versus tactics. Just like, all right, there's
Yeah.
some really cool tactics that are super sexy to do, but if you don't have the strategy right, the tactics will just run you right into a corner or a wall or whatever. So,
Yep. Yep.
yeah, I think Derek's asking 2-year wait for WeatherXM. Yeah, I ordered mine. I think December I got mine. I don't know if they gave me the first one or if I bought it. I had made a point of buying all that stuff, but they might have given me that. Whatever. I think I got it in early 2022. So now we're in about the same time, 2024. So 2 years for me. I think, yeah, 619 was one of the first 50 buyers. So he got it before me. I think
Yeah.
619 might have told me about WeatherXM too, if I remember right.
I, I was a pre-order as well. And
Okay.
as soon as I got the thing, I, slapped it up outside and started looking at the weather.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that's
it's
your other crazy thing that I see is like, it's right behind me. It's right. Well, whatever. I'm not going to fuck around my finger.
straight up. Yeah.
Yeah, it's right there. I look at that thing every single morning when I come in to be like, all right, this is what the temperature is right now. This is what I can expect for the day. So it's been useful to me. So I figure, okay, you could buy a slightly cheaper weather station that would provide the same thing, but it doesn't provide access to the upside. To me, it seems like a super fair trade.
Mhm.
But yeah, it is
Yeah.
tough to explain the strategy versus. Maybe I'll take a stab at it, strategy versus tactics, because that's useful.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good story there.
Let's see, tactics.
One other thing that I'll huck in here is so we talked about the IoT working group vote
Yep.
wrapping up. That was actually a milestone for us
Yep.
getting through that. We're actually going to be rolling out a brand new Helium vote for all of the Helium governance stuff, which is a bunch of work sort of all wrapped into something of a sort of small impact thing. But one of the critical things for any DePIN project or any crypto project for that matter is effective governance.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have the turnout, if you don't have the participation, all that like sort of power behind making sure that a vote is representative of the people behind it, you expose yourself a lot to manipulations in those voting systems. So, and we've probably seen this or been close to some of this in some of the subnetwork votes where, a lot of people have tokens locked up for Helium as a protocol, right? Because that's where people had validators locked and all that kind of stuff. And there's this like token incentive to lock tokens there, but we don't have that on the subnetwork side. Like you lock tokens and it's all for that vote power piece. And so, there's been some investments made around making sure that we can build a robust voting system to like make sure that the network is secure and like all this process happens as expected. So the team built this thing we've called modular governance. It's this sort of full set of tools for the Solana ecosystem to manage votes. And we're hoping to see more projects within the Solana ecosystem start to leverage it. So it's kind of cool to pioneer that and push that to the Solana community. But then that also wraps into a whole rework of position management and all of this other stuff that separates us from realms and like the other platforms that we've been using before. So it'll be exciting to get that out there. I think we've got a draft of it that is in good shape enough to ship today. So keep an eye out for that. It'll be a fun one.
Brad.
Yeah.
Yeah, the governance thing is crazy. There was a totally different project over Easter weekend that voted. They didn't have governance before. They voted to have a working group, and they voted something like $7 or $8 million worth of tokens to go towards that working group and $90,000 a year.
Oh, was this Jupiter?
I'm not going to name any names. And they passed the vote over the weekend, and 4 people. I think it's for 4 people. So it's like, okay, that's kind of cool. They can move so fast, but is it necessary to have all of that stuff in there? And so I think we got to like be really careful with saying, hey, there's speed here, and then there's representation here, and there's probably some balance there where it's, in that case, super fast, but maybe not great representation if there's only 4 people. And if those 4 people don't get, voted in by an entire community. The flip side is you get stuff like in the early days of Helium, where you have everybody voting, everybody screaming about it. A lot of people don't know what's going on, and you have a crazy skewed vote that's like, oh, that doesn't make sense. So
governance is probably one of the harder things in this space, and it's the little sneaker of the challenges. Like infrastructure, all that stuff is hard, but
no, vitally important, but often overlooked. We're just like, we'll just trust the good people to do the right thing. It's like, works when you got good people. Doesn't work when you got some devious folks who are like, hey, we're going to make it look like we want to do the right thing, and then just extract value.
Yep.
So cool. Well, I think a pretty good show here. Right on, Joey. Thanks for coming on, dude. Always good to talk to you. Good to check in. I got some notes will drop. I like the rug check XYZ.
Yep, that's a good one. We'll see how things are looking next week. I will be in Germany for what is this? Sensor conferences. What is it?
Wo in Deutschland.
I don't even remember. I'm going for 2, and I'm confusing the things. But so it may be a late night for me hanging out with you. Or we'll see how it plays out.
Get Travis on here. We'll give you a break.
It'd be fun.
Yeah, we'll do some cross promo with his show. So
or I'll pop in with a beer in hand or something.
Yeah, that would be very German. I'd expect that. All right, dude. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for making time. I will catch you next week or the week after if you're beard up in Germany.
Next 3 weeks.
So enjoy.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. All right, buddy.
It's gonna be busy. Later.